Whatever they cod together is going to be a very pale version of what was possible.
Right now, to be honest, it looks very pessimistic and it looks like a real betrayal.
It can't even be called a deal. It could be called a cop-out.
Over to the people. It's the only answer, you know. If we leave it in the hands of these people, the politicians, then, you know, it's runaway climate change for us.
It started with several hours of fantastically pompous speeches by world leaders pretending to be green and pretending to be concerned about the environment. It was just one after the other, maybe 40, 50 speeches. Everybody was expecting, hoping that Obama would come offering olive branches and money and ideas to break the deadlocks in the talks. In the event, he came up with absolutely nothing at all.
The question then before us is no longer the nature of the challenge. The question is our capacity to meet it. For while the reality of climate change is not in doubt, I have to be honest, as the world watches us today, I think our ability to take collective action is in doubt right now. No matter what happens here in Copenhagen, we think it is good for us as well as good for the world.
The environment has a deeper aspect. The United States is opposed, and they bring a tricky plan. They think we're stupid, offering money as if that were the problem. Moreover, they were offering a ridiculous amount of money. They don't want a challenge to that economic domination.
We had a fantastic panic. Obama was apparently going to give a press conference wherein he was going to blame China for the deadlock in the talks. In fact, what happened was that somebody bothered then to phone up the US press corps, and they had no intention whatever of a press conference.
We'll get a text and it will have very nice aspirational things in it, but we'll have none of the no legally binding treaty, we know that. And I mean, I suppose what we've really witnessed is a conference which brought together people with very high aspirations, in which many, many people across the world were held in great hope.
When we finally saw the document, there were lots of concessions finally for developing countries, but it was startlingly short of commitment or ambition.
Good evening. This is Climate Action Network International press briefing.
I'm going to speak now about a non-deal. I think a non-deal in just about every aspect of the word you can think of. A non-deal in the sense that it's not yet over. A non-deal in the sense that it doesn't really live up to any of the preconditions that we put up beforehand. I don't find it very fair in the sense that it's been cooked up by a number of big countries in a closed room without any transparency, without any civil society engagement in this building. I don't find it legally binding. Why don't I find it legally binding? Because it isn't legally binding.
What's on the table from this cluster of countries is a betrayal of the poor, the betrayal of vulnerable countries, a betrayal of small island states, and it's a betrayal of the future of all children and our grandchildren on this planet. And we must ask the question right now of why is there such a lack of urgency? If those impacts were happening in Manhattan, Berlin, Paris, would the urgency be what it is? Why? We have to ask that question bluntly to these leaders. Is it because the people in question who are first in the front line of the struggle are poor? Is it because they are not militarily strong? Is it because they don't have any resources like oil underneath them? Or is it because of the color of the skin? There is so many loopholes here. You could fly an aeroplane through it, Air Force One, for example, and we have to begin to then ask, where do we go from here?
For the guy who had literally engineered this, and that is Obama, we're telling him he shared the dreams of his father and said, dreams from my father. We're asking him to keep alive the dreams from his father. And there's no better way than rethinking the deal and re-engaging in an open, inclusive international process.
Don't sign the deal! Murder! 30 degrees is genocide!
we are going to be affected as developing countries and as India and all the other countries. And we really demand the political leaders to stand up and take action and not sign a treaty which is not good for us. How can they do something as irresponsible as this? We are locked outside the negotiations. We're not even inside. We're not even allowed in the Bella Center. It's really cold here. It's 2 o'clock in the night, but we are here because we really demand what we really stand for.
I'm not going to be the only leader who I think leaves before it's finally presented.
In the end, Obama was making a special announcement, but not to us here in Copenhagen, but directly to America. So he obviously knew where his toast was buttered. Basically, he was being quite upbeat about this is a start, and no, it's not very good, this is a start.
I think it's a very poor result, and I don't know if that's the meaning of such a conference. It's a political paper, and we will have to discuss these issues during the next few months. So maybe it's Mexico, maybe it's Bonn.
It's very hard to be anything but utterly despairing about our species, it has to be said. In every respect, you know, the way we've trashed the planet, the way people have failed to come together on this, the way the way our political system is unable to cope with a disaster like climate change.
What you've actually seen is the thing detonated by politics, and superpower politics at that. But superpower politics we've never seen before. China versus America on an absolutely full frontal scale. I mean, what a collision. We've had vast numbers of people, massive carbon footprints all over the place, and then an exclusion of civic society and the rest of it. It's all very, very strange. This can't be the way to do it, can it?
We came here 2 weeks ago in high expectation to change the whole way we think of economics and how we live our lives. We've had 2 weeks of argument and debate, and here we are at the very, very end with actually not much. We've got the outlines of a basic agreement, but it is the start. The countries are, in theory, aboard. Now, there's one big problem. If the plenary sessions, if all the countries get together and they look at this text and they say, oh, we're not going to sign it, then we are back to square one.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see some of you on the plane.